dead as a doornail. We finally got that started up and got to the top of the mountain where all this had started. We went up to the spot where we had been sitting at that point, and there were thousands of ladybugs crawling all over the spot where we had all been sitting.
You guys are out of your minds.
And well, we were at that, at least I was at that point. I was into, everything, the Ouija, everything. And come to find out, talking to other people and everything, that that's a common occurrence when something paranormal or spiritual happens, that especially ladybugs, which are the symbol of, like, good luck, tend to, congregate at a spot where something bad might have happened.
Yes.
But come to find out, not only is Genesee Park built over an Indian burial ground, but that's Jefferson County Police Patrol. That's way out of the jurisdiction of Golden Police Department.
They shouldn't have been there.
They shouldn't have been there, and the people that were with us that had warrants out for their arrest for not appearing in court, nothing major, but they skipped court. Nothing ever happened to that. But I'll tell you, to this day, I've not been back up there.
I don't blame you. Finally, you made a right choice. God, that's a weird story. Whew. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art. Steve from South Dakota.
Hello, Steve.
I have a story that I haven't told too often, and I'm trying to recall it here as I listen to your show. But it, happened to me when I was about 8 years old.
What was it?
I lived in Fort Madison, Iowa, down on the Mississippi River, and our family lived in a two-story farmhouse. It was a two-story brick house on a hill, and I used to sleep on the south side of the house. And I faced a pasture where I used to play cowboys and Indians when I was a boy. And above the pasture valley, there was a highway that curved about a half a mile around to the east of the house. There was one night that I couldn't sleep, and I just looked out the window, and I saw I saw these lights of a car coming around the highway. They came off the highway toward my window and disappeared into the valley where we always played. Well, I was petrified. This is a true story. I was absolutely petrified. I remember going in and, screaming to my mom and dad about it. And this happened 2 nights in a row. I can vividly remember this whole thing. A few days later, some friends of mine and I were playing down in the pasture.
Yes.
And toward the east, a light appeared. It was the same hue, the same size. And across this road, there was a grass airfield, and it was an airplane that had taken off. And the plane, we watched this plane, the front wheels, it was a Piper Cub, hit the phone wires and crashed nose into the highway.
Oof.
And we watched it crash. And it crashed. It was heading right for the place where these lights were that I had seen before.
Wow. So it was a real crash?
Yes, it was.
Ooh, that is freaky.
But it was the same size of light and the same color of light, and it was sort of like almost that I had some kind of a premonition or something.
I understand, and I can thank you. I can understand there would be a premonition about that sort of event. That sort of event, a plane crash, a car crash, a death, would notch itself deeply into whatever space and time exists for such things. They are traumatic events. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hi, Art?
Yes.
It's Janice in Tacoma. I'm out delivering papers, so it's not the best night to be listening to this.
Hi, Janice.
But when I was first married, my husband and I lived in Redlands, California. He flew C-141s down there at Norton Air Force Base, and so I was home alone a lot. And we had purchased a brand new home, and it was a real peaceful home, but I went through a period of time where things were going on that just I kind of ignored, but there were kind of sounds at night and things. And one night I remember the garage door, there was the doorknob was moving, and my dog started barking absolutely crazy. So I called the police, and they came out and looked around, nothing. And then slowly there's just an ominous kind of feeling began to come through the home when I would be alone at night. And I was always glad when my husband would come home from his trips because I would feel a little bit more secure. But this one night, this coldness that would come into the house became more and more obvious. And I really, as I look back on it, I become more aware of it than I was at that point. But I felt an uneasiness in the home. One night I was laying in bed, and we had a full-length mirror on a dresser at the foot of the bed. And I was sound asleep. And all of a sudden, I was just like a shock. I was woken. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Some people, it's just like brought out of sleep, like in a cold sweat.
I know exactly what you're talking
about. And I
about.
looked at the foot of my bed, and there was a black figure standing there. In front of the mirror, there was no reflection in the mirror. And, I mean, I laid there paralyzed.
Of course.
And I just began to pray the Lord's Prayer. I couldn't, nothing else. And I had known, as a Christian, I had known that we had authority over anything. But that thing was gone. And after that, the whole house warmed up again. But it was the bizarrest experience that I have no idea why, what triggered it. But it was so real. And for a while, I thought I had imagined it. And I didn't share it with anybody, but, as I've, over the years, heard more people account of the same type of experiences, that something had manifested itself at the foot of my bed that had been there.
Yep, it's easy to laugh at unless it's happened to you.
Yeah, and it's just, and my husband, I was laying there, my husband was sleeping through this whole thing. And so I just wanted to relate that to you for my ghost story.
Well, there you are. Thank you, and have a good time delivering papers. Keep your head down. First-time caller line, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
Hello.
Funnest night of the year on your show. I love it.
Well, it depends on your definition of fun. I mean...
Well...
Anyway, go ahead, sir.
Real interesting. This is Jeff calling, listening on Como.
Right.
Seattle area. I had an experience at the Custer battlefield about 5 years ago. Went out there with my family, and I'd gone ahead to... the battle site by myself, and I was up there in the afternoon, and turned out I was the last person in the park. And the ranger came up and said he'd go ahead and leave the gate unlocked, and I could let myself out.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. So I'm up there right by the mass grave site, and decided to take a walk along this path they have over to where some other guys were slaughtered. I was walking along there, and it's real quiet. The only thing you could hear was the wind in your ears. And I'm walking along, and I heard a very definite, it was a gravel path. I heard a footstep right behind me, and I turned around, and I thought the ranger was back.
Right.
To tell me I had to leave now.
Sure.
It was almost dark. I turned around, and there was no one there, and my heart just leaped into my throat. I thought, what the heck? I must have been imagining things. So I turned around and started to walk again, and very definitely, I was listening this time. I heard it again, right behind me.
Crunching. Walking?
Right, like a footstep on the gravel.
Yeah.
And I stopped, and it took one more step and stopped. And I thought, my God, I turned around and I said, you know what? So I decided, said out loud, hey, if you're there, what is it? What do you want? And I never got any kind of an answer, but just could feel a very definite...
presence?
Presence, yeah.
There was something with you.
There must be something about sites of real tragedy, violent death.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Battlefields. Earlier we talked about the island of Okinawa.
Right.
It's a haunted island, sir. I can tell you, places where many, many people have died violently, unexpectedly. They're haunted. That's all there is to it.
It was astounding.
Thank you. Take care. There's no doubt about it. Violent death, unexpected death, suicides, murders. They definitely have things that remain. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hi, Art. This is Mike in KEX.
Hi, Mike.
This is a story about demons.
Demons.
Lucifer.
Yes.
And angels.
All right.
And it's a true story.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, so lay it out.
About a year prior to my sister's death in 1980, my younger sister, she had a couple of strokes at my parents' house, and she was incoherent for about a month. She would just babble, and she would just stare straight forward. Mm-hmm. And after she came out of that, we asked her, do you remember anything about the time that you were in that state? and she said, I remember a half man, half goat type demon, and it came at me up in the room. She stayed in my parents' room during this time.
Half man, half goat?